You're halfway across the yard when you feel it. Not a sound, not a movement, just that strange pull, the kind that makes you stop walking before your brain knows why. You turn around. There's a squirrel on the fence post, maybe 12 feet away, completely still, not eating, not running, just watching you, both eyes locked right on yours. Then it runs. You stand there for a second, maybe two, then you keep going. You tell yourself it was nothing, a coincidence, just a squirrel being a squirrel. But here is what you did not know in that moment. That squirrel was not doing nothing. It was working. And you were exactly what it was working on. Most people don't think about it longer than 3 seconds. You looked at a squirrel. It looked back. Then it ran off and the moment was over. You filed it somewhere between weird and nothing and kept going with your day. The same way you move past 100 other small things in your yard without stopping to ask what they mean. That explanation feels completely reasonable, because from where you were standing, that is exactly what it looked like. Here is what changes that. The squirrel was not looking in your direction. It was looking at you, not the yard, not a sound behind you, not a shape that happened to cross its path. You, your face, the way you carry yourself, the way you move through that space, had its complete and undivided attention. And here's the part that makes that mean something. That squirrel has seen you before, more times than you have seen it, and it has been keeping a file. You just don't know yet what's in it. By the time this video is over, you are never going to look at a squirrel the same way again. Not in your yard, not in the park, not anywhere. Because what you are about to learn is not trivia about an animal you pass every day. It is a complete rethinking of what is actually happening in the space right outside your door, and how much of it has been about you all along. If you are new here, subscribe before we go further. This channel exists for exactly this, the science happening in ordinary yards that most people walk past without knowing. Now, here's what almost everyone gets wrong first. You see the freeze and your brain files it under one word, scared. You figure the squirrel spotted something large, you, and locked up the way small things do when something bigger gets too close. That explanation feels right. It makes sense from where you're standing. But a squirrel that is actually scared does not stare at you. It runs. It flattens against a branch and disappears into the bark. It chatters at you from somewhere high and already safe. The stare is something else entirely. Research on escape behavior in small mammals, including work from Stephen Lima at Indiana State University, found that squirrels do not react to threats. They calculate them. Before a squirrel moves a single muscle, it has already run a full assessment. How far? How fast? Which exit, and how many exits from exactly where it is standing right now. The freeze is that calculation happening in real time, not the result of fear, the process of solving it. Think about the last time a strange sound stopped you cold in the middle of the night. You went completely still, you held your breath, not because fear paralyzed you, because your brain needed the silence to work. Your body paused so your mind could run the numbers. That is the stare. The squirrel is not scared of you. It is solving you, and what it finds determines everything that happens next. Here is something their research reveals that most people never hear. The stare did not start when the squirrel saw you. It started before that, before the squirrel even knew what it was looking at. Squirrels have eyes positioned on the sides of their heads, giving them nearly 340 degrees of vision. But the region of the brainstem that first registers a threat, a structure called the superior colliculus, processes motion and shifts in light faster than conscious recognition can follow. The alarm fires before the brain finishes identifying what caused it. That is exactly what happened when you stepped outside. Your shadow crossed a squirrel's field of vision before your face did. That small shift in light, the moving edge of darkness sweeping across the yard, fired an alarm in the squirrel's brainstem before it had finished deciding what you were. The stare did not begin when it saw your face. It began the moment your shadow moved, which means by the time you noticed it looking, it had already been watching longer than you'll ever realize. But the freeze is only the beginning, because what the squirrel does with what it finds, who it decides you are, goes much further than most people imagine. Most people assume what the squirrel registers is a category, human, large, possibly dangerous, the same file it opens for any person who walks through the space. That is not what the research shows. Studies on urban gray squirrels conducted across university campuses and suburban parks, where squirrels interact with hundreds of different people, found that squirrels distinguish between individuals, not just categories. A 2021 study from the University of Exeter documented that squirrels adjusted their flight initiation distance based on the specific person approaching, not just their size or speed. Different people got different responses. Same location, same time of day, different human, different calculation. The mechanism behind this is the same spatial memory system squirrels use to relocate hundreds of buried caches across an entire season. That system does not just store where, it stores what, when, and under what conditions. The squirrel in your yard is running that same architecture on you. Your face, your movement pattern, the speed you usually cross the yard, the door you come out of, the corner you tend to walk toward. And while that recognition is happening, while the file is being checked and updated, something else is already in motion. Most people never notice the tail flick, that sharp little snap right before a squirrel runs, or sometimes while it is still staring directly at you. Most people read it as nerves, a twitch, the animal version of fidgeting. But it is not nerves, it is a broadcast. Research published in the Journal of Experimental Biology found that squirrel tail signals operate on two distinct axes simultaneously. The speed of the movement encodes urgency. The shape encodes the type of threat. A slow, wide sweep signals something circling overhead. A sharp, repeated flick signals a ground-level threat, something moving at the squirrel's level in its space, close enough to matter. Something like you. And here's what almost no one realizes. That flick was not aimed at you. It was transmitted about you to every squirrel within roughly 50 meters. In the time it took you to notice the movement, your presence had already been classified and communicated across the yard. The squirrel was not reacting to you, it was filing a report on you in real time, while still holding eye contact. This means that you are never just being watched by one animal. The moment that tail moves, the whole yard knows you're there. Now, this next point is what most people find genuinely unsettling the first time they hear it, because it requires accepting something about a small backyard animal that we do not usually extend to creatures that size. Squirrels deceive intentionally. Research from Princeton University documented a behavior called deceptive caching. When a squirrel is being observed by another squirrel, by a bird, or by a human it has assessed as paying attention, it will perform the full physical sequence of burying a nut. It digs, it places something in the hole, it covers it over carefully, it pats the surface down, then it moves away. But the hole is empty. There was never anything in it. The squirrel noticed it was being watched, calculated that the observer might follow up and steal the cache, and performed a complete false burial to send the watcher to an empty location. It did not do this by accident. It did this because it registered that it had an audience, and it chose to mislead that audience rather than reveal where the actual food was going. What this means for your yard is something that takes a moment to land. The squirrel freezing and staring at you is not just assessing whether you're a threat, it is also deciding whether you're watching closely enough to be worth deceiving. If you're paying the wrong kind of attention at the wrong moment, you may have already been shown something that was not real. Now, you've stepped outside this morning thinking about coffee, maybe the weather, maybe the list of things you needed to get done. The squirrel was thinking about you. Not in the way we think about things, not with language or feeling or anything that maps cleanly onto what happens inside a human mind, but with something that in its own way is just as precise. A record, a pattern, a file built across every morning you have walked through that yard without knowing you are being cataloged. Tomorrow morning, do one thing. Before you reach for your phone, before you start moving through the yard the way you always move through it, stop. Find the first squirrel you see and hold still, really still. Watch what it does with its tail in the first 10 seconds. Watch where its eyes go. Watch how long the freeze lasts before it makes its decision. That decision, stay, monitor, or leave, is the squirrel's current verdict on you. And now you know exactly what went into it. Tell me what you see. Not generally, specifically. Did it stay or did it go? Did the tail flick before or after the stare ended? Has there been a squirrel in your yard that seems to have already made up its mind about you? One that barely flinches no matter how close you get? Tell me about that one. I read every comment. Those are the ones I keep thinking about longest. The squirrels have been paying attention this whole time. Now, you know what to look for.